Radhe Radhe. Today is Saturday, 15th February 2025, and here we are to present to you this recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita study session. We're continuing along our journey of chapter 10. So as I bring up the slides, you'll get to see the content that we covered today, which was chapter 10, verses 23 and 24. Of course, prior to those verses, we had the recap quiz. So that covered last time's content on chapter 10, verses 21 and 22. You can take a look at the description for the video to get a link to the free community portal page where the slides you're seeing on the screen, the recap quiz questions, reference material, videos, all that is available for you for your reference and review. So with that, we get into today's content, which is chapter 10, verse 23, and then chapter 10, verse 24. Chapter 10, verse 23. Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksha Rakshasam Vasunam Pavakaschasmi Meruh Shikhari Namaham. So chapter 10, verse 23 has the catchphrase Lord of the Mountains. We saw in class that that is at least because of two references. As Sri Krishna says, he is Meru amongst the mountains. So the more straightforward one, yes, he is the Lord of the mountains. But even more important than that, he actually says amongst the Rudras, he is Shankar, Lord Shiv, the original form of Lord Shiv in the universe. And so indeed, we know Lord Shiv resides at Mount Kailash. He is way up amongst the mountains. So indeed, Sri Krishna is Shankar, Lord Shiv. Sri Krishna, therefore, also is the Lord of the mountains. So keep that in mind, at least those two references for the catchphrase here. In terms of the content, we have been counting since at least last week. There were 8 entities or items that Sri Krishna enumerated that he is thus far. Today we get 4 more in chapter 10, verse 23. So Sri Krishna says he is Shankar. Amongst the demons, he is Kuber. He is Agni amongst the Vasus. And as we said, amongst the mountains, he is Meru. The commentary is overall fairly succinct. Swamiji gives a little bit of description that the Rudras, as we mentioned in class, those sort of storm gods, there are 11 forms of Lord Shiv. There is that sometimes fierce or stormy nature to them, but also this very, very calm and benevolent aspect that we especially see in Lord Shiv and particularly in Shankar. So Swamiji says that there are different names in the Puranas and elsewhere. Amongst all of these names for these 11 forms, the Rudras, Shankar is the original form of Lord Shiv in the universe. As I said in class, if you look at the in your spare time section of the slides as you get later on, you'll see one of the video links is for a short video by Swamiji answering this typical question, point of confusion or debate that people have about who is the Supreme Lord. So please do take a look at that. Next up, Swamiji describes briefly the yakshas that I mentioned we have seen before as early in chapter 2 in one of the stories in the commentary for one of the chapter 2 verses. You can take a look at that. They're semi-divine demons, not the worst or bad kind. They typically have some playful or mischievous kind of nature to them. Of them, there is the one who is very fond of acquiring wealth and power, and that yaksha is known as Kuber. You may have heard of that name often, of course. And so he's the leader of those yakshas. He's also, as Swamiji says, the treasurer of the celestial gods. Again, the point is that Sri Krishna says, even amongst the demons, he is everything, and the foremost of them, he is Kuber. So again, stressing the importance of opulence and vibhuti. Next up, we learned about the 8 Vasus. We recognized the first 5, land or earth, water, fire, air, and space, as the 5 gross elements, if you recall again from early on in chapter 2. And then the sun, moon, and the stars, which in fact we saw in last time's content, chapter 10, verses 21 and 22. So these 8 Vasus, Swamiji says, they constitute the gross structure of the universe, and foremost among them, the one that gives warmth and energy to all the other elements, is Agni, fire. Therefore, Sri Krishna mentions that as his special manifestation. I had also mentioned in class that we've heard of the Vasus perhaps in a different context. In the human form, they were cursed to be born, but then 7 of them, of course, were drowned purposefully by Ganga at, right after birth itself. The eighth was the one who, as a compromise, had to live it out as a mortal. That is, of course, Pitamaha, grandsire, Bhishma. Finally, in this verse's commentary, we also see Mount Meru. May have heard of that. Again, it is often connected in the cosmic form or order as well as the mountain for the celestial abodes. Rich natural resources, Swamiji says. It's also believed to be that axis around which many, many heavenly bodies rotate. And therefore, again, foremost, prime. Sri Krishna says, amongst the mountains, he is Mount Meru. Swamiji, in fact, concludes that from a material standpoint, just as wealth distinguishes a wealthy person from others, these glories, these transcendental opulences, these vibhutis of Sri Krishna reveal and distinguish, again, to use the word, the vibhutis of God Himself. So that is chapter 10, verse 23, Lord amongst the mountains. And then we look at chapter 10, verse 24. पुरोधसां च मुख्यं मां विधि पार्थ बृहस्पतिं सेनानीनामहं स्कन्दः सरसाम् अस्मि सागरः. So here, chapter 10, verse 24 has the catchphrase ocean of bliss. We'll see, and we saw in class why that is, of course, ocean. We, of course, know that God Himself is the ocean of bliss. And we've seen that, heard that from Swamiji many, many times. So in this chapter 10, verse 24, we now get 3 more entities or items that Sri Krishna says He is. Amongst the priests, He is Brihaspati. Amongst warrior chiefs, He is Kartikeya. And amongst reservoirs of water, we are to know Him as the ocean. So 3 more. And we mentioned in class, we saw 8 last time, 4 today in chapter 10, verse 23, 3 more in chapter 10, verse 24. Coincidentally, happens to add up to 15. 15 on the 15th, today, 15th February. That just is a numerical coincidence for those who want to note that. We do know, of course, what the role and functions of a priest are, discharging duties of performing ritualistic worships and ceremonies in temples and at home. Brihaspati is the chief priest in heaven, as Swamiji says. He is again one of the Sapta Rishis, as we said in class. In fact, he is the topmost. He is the priest of the Devtas, of the celestial gods. That being said, Swamiji says, he asks, and then he describes, how come in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna mentions that amongst the priests, he is Vashisht. Vashisht, we also know, again, a very, very top priest, mentioned, of course, often in the Ramayana as well. And so here the point is, Swamiji says, we should not be attaching importance to the object, to the entity, or to the attribute, or even the name, in fact. All that is important, but we cannot and should not attach importance to them solely, because we then miss out on the larger essential element, which is the opulence, the vibhuti that is manifesting of God in each of those entities, objects, and attributes. Again, as we stressed multiple times in class, we can only cover a finite number of these details. Sri Krishna himself says that to Arjun. We saw that a couple of weeks ago, that he shall only briefly describe his detail because there is no end to his glories. Therefore, Swamiji here also reiterates that the essence for us is to not get attached to a specific name or a specific object and think that that is it. Sri Krishna is anything and everything. In each of these, it is Sri Krishna's glory, his transcendental opulence, his vibhuti that is manifesting. And that is what we are seeking to truly appreciate. So next up in the commentary, Swamiji says, of course, right, Sri Krishna mentions amongst warrior chiefs, he is Kartikeya. Kartikeya, many of you know, he is the son of Lord Shiv. He is the brother of Lord Ganesh. We talked about the story of them circling the universe. You can go and revisit that at some point. And of course, Kartikeya Skanda, very, very youthful always, very strong and powerful. Therefore, the commander-in-chief with all his military prowess of the Devtas, of the celestial gods. Often his vehicle, as we said, is a peafowl, peacock peafowl. He keeps, flying around on that. And that again best reflects one of the infinite opulences of God. Finally, of course, amongst all the bodies of water, the reservoirs of water, Sri Krishna says that he is the grave and the mighty ocean. So again, of course, as we see in the catchphrase, he also, of course, is the ocean of bliss. Let us take a look at a couple of important Sanskrit words to add to our dictionaries. This one, we all know it, but of course, that name is for the Supreme. We should revisit it. Lord Shiv is Shankar, Shankaraha. And then let's look at this one, which is amongst the mountains, Shikharinam. So remember, Shri Krishna says he is Meru amongst the mountains. So amongst the mountains is Shikharinam. That's chapter 10, verse 23. And then chapter 10, verse 24. Again, maybe let's look at two of them. One is straightforward, one is perhaps newer. We have Purodhasam, that is amongst priests. That's why Sri Krishna says amongst the priests, Purodhasam, he is Brihaspati. And then we do know Sagar, Sagaraha, that's the ocean. Let's in fact look at amongst all those bodies or reservoirs of water, we have Sarasam. Sarasam is amongst reservoirs of water. So for chapter 10, verse 24, we have Purodhasam and we have Sarasam. Let's also take a look at the flyer for today's class. We discussed prior to, hopefully class, you had a chance to see and think of the question. Mahashivratri approaches. We know that that is a week away from now. The question is, do any Supreme Family members feature too? Indeed, the flyer, of course, does show us Lord Shiv, that's Shankar. We do have him right here, but that is only from chapter 10, verse 23. He features, right? Amongst the Rudras, know Sri Krishna to be Shankar. Shankar, Lord Shiv, does appear or feature here. But then verse 24, chapter 10, verse 24, we also see that Sri Krishna says amongst the warrior chiefs, he is Kartikeya. That is the son of Lord Shiv, Skanda. So indeed, we have multiple Supreme Family members appearing or featuring in today's session. And of course, coincidentally, in the spirit and with the timing of Mahashivratri. Sri Krishna is Lord Shiv, Shankar, and then of course, Shankar, Lord Shiv, and Kartikeya are right here mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Final comment is that we also had a chance to practice a timely meditation that we all could take part in. Lord Shiv visiting baby Krishna, the cameo by Mummy, as I had mentioned. We tried to do that. So hopefully that benefited all of you. The link for this is also in your spare time section. When you look at the slides that you'll get, and you look at this section here in your spare time, one of the links is for that meditation. Please do practice it again and again if you can. And as we discussed towards the end of class, look at not just the story and its elements, but also a lot of the different takeaways, the concepts, the important scriptural or spiritual terms, and Bhagavad Gita related, elements we have learned along the way that are all part of that meditation script. So I hope you get a chance to do that again. And as I also said, one of the videos here is where Swamiji answers that common question, the topic of debate about the Supreme Lord. So please do take a look at all that when you get that material, when the slides are available. As you said, in the spirit of Mahashivratri, lots going on at the Radha Krishna Temple of Dallas. So hope you can take part in as many of those festivities the next few days, starting from next Saturday. We will not have class at that time. We shall therefore meet 2 weeks from now, which is when a new month starts. That'll be Saturday, 1st March 2025. 8 a.m. Central Time, Dallas, Texas, 7:30 p.m. India time. So you get extra time to practice and review. And as always, keep evolving in the spiritual journeys. Thank you so much. Until then, Radhe Radhe.